So we are now launching this event. So one of our panelists will be joining us late. Excellencies, dear colleagues, welcome for those to those who join us here in person at the International Environment House and those who are now following us online. The Geneva Environment Network and its partners have the pleasure to welcome you today for an information sharing session on activities and events related to the environment that are taking place during the 58th session of the Human Rights Council, which will kick off later this month in Geneva and will conclude in April. These info sharing sessions take place ahead of each session of the Human Rights Council. And the Geneva Environment Network also publishes for each of the Council sessions a webpage that summarizes the environmental agenda of the related session. So for those of you who don't know yet these resources, I encourage you to check them on our website. So for who is online, the links are shared in the chat, and for who is with us here in the room, it's going to be published on the webpage of the event. I mean, it's already there, actually. So as we keep highlighting, the environmental agenda in human rights bodies, particularly in Geneva, has increased in importance over the past years. We have special rapporteurs specifically focused on environmental related topics. And we have also seen this in the growing number of reports by special rapporteurs and treaty bodies that tackle issues related to human rights and the environment, including the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. So the objective of today's information sharing session is to discuss and share information on planned environmental related activities at and around the upcoming session of the councils, such as events, publications, or exhibitions, and exchange on possible synergies. They will feed our Gen page on the upcoming session of the Council, which, as I mentioned, provides an updated calendar of these environmental related events. Inputs are welcomed from all, and the page is actually regularly updated. The link to the submission form is being shared in the chat for who is online. The UN Special Rapporteur on the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment presents her annual report to the March session of the Council. The right to food, environmental human rights defenders, and the effects of foreign debt and other related international financial obligations of states on the full enjoyment of all human rights are also on the agenda of this session. And addressing environmental related issues which will be presented by their respective United Nations special procedures. And actually, we have also colleagues here who have joined us to speak about that, and the special procedures that are not represented here. Other colleagues will be bringing insights on what we are expecting at this session of the Council. So for those who are online throughout the event, you can raise your questions by using the Q&A box. We will use these to feed the tour de table that we will have after the presentations. I'm also happy to give the floor online for those that we know, but for security reasons, we won't be able to unmute all. So we were supposed to start this session with Benjamin Schachter, who is leading the Environment and Climate Change team at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Ben is a few minutes late. So I'm turning first to my left, where I am joined by Victoria Aberg, who is a human rights officer also in the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. And Victoria is supporting the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights to a Clean, Healthy, and Sustainable Environment, Mrs. Astrid Puentes, who will be with us here in Geneva in March and will be very busy with many activities. So let's hear from Victoria what we are going to expect from the Special Rapporteur.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you so much for organizing these events. I think they're very useful for us and hopefully for all of you as well in this coordination effort. As you might all know, this is the first council session of the Special Rapporteur, Ms. Astrid Puentes Riaño. She was appointed on the 1st of May last year. So this is why she's not come to Geneva formally yet to present a report. The topic of her report is the ocean and human rights. This is, as far as we know, one of the first reports in the UN system that brings together the ocean and human rights. The report is already public. It came out on the 27th of January. It comes with 5 annexes that were also uploaded, which I think are very interesting, including a projection of, or a map of the Earth that shows the, like from the perspective of the ocean, or showing the ocean as one biome. We also received a large number of submissions for this report that are also now public on the website of the Special Rapporteur. So quite a big number from states, but also over 60 from civil society organizations, indigenous peoples, academics, individuals, etc. Maybe, or I think even from some of you. So we really appreciate those, and they're duly reflected in the report, and they actually very much shape how we how the Special Rapporteur and how we work on the report. So please keep those coming for future occasions. And just a brief note first on the report itself. So as I mentioned, it considers the relationship between the ocean and human rights, and make an argument on why ocean issues are also human rights issues. It contributes to the understanding of the ocean as a single biome. It elaborates on the ocean's significance within the framework of human rights, and in particular with regards to the right to healthy environment. The report addresses the importance of a holistic, comprehensive, integrated, gender-responsive, and human rights and ecosystem-based approach to the ocean, with the human rights to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment at its center. The report aims at advancing adaptive, inclusive, and evidence-based management measures to reduce the vulnerability of the ocean to the harms of the triple planetary crisis and their cumulative impact on human rights. There's a series of challenges identified in the report, and also opportunities for achieving a healthy ocean. And the report also sets, as is standard practice, priority recommendations for states, for the United Nations, and for businesses. It also includes, which might be of interest to you, a section on ocean defenders. So as a concept. As Diana mentioned, it will be presented on the 14th of February. This also, I mean, this whole year will be the ocean, or this topic will be relevant for the rapporteur. As you might be aware, there's an ocean conference in June in Nice that she will also attend. In terms of the events at the council, she will also, the Special Rapporteur, she will also present the report of the previous Special Rapporteur, David Boyd, on the Maldives during the interactive session. And she will host a formal side event on this topic called, most likely, Ocean Issues are Human Rights Issues. This is on the 13th of March, so the day before she'll formally present the report at the council. And also she's agreed to do, like, she'll do an interview on this with UN TV. There's going to be a press release, etc. So some specific activities related to the main report itself. And then apart from that, she also has a series of other side events. So on the 12th, she arrives here on the 12th. That's her first day. She's agreed to attend a side event with UNEP on the core human rights principles on conservation. There's another side event that day organized by CL on investor states dispute settlement mechanisms. On the 13th is her main event, and also FIAN is organizing a side event on small-scale fisheries and the right to food, where she'll be a speaker. And there's also, I mean, she's already now looking ahead to her next report, which will be on environmental impact assessments and the right to health environment. So while she's here, I think Eve might speak about it more, but during the weekend, or there'll already be a first consultation ahead of this, or for the preparations of this report. So there is, I don't know if states will speak to it, but there is a resolution, not renewing the mandate, but there's a resolution, a substantive resolution on the right to health environment, led by the core group on the mandate. Maldives is the pen holder, and we're informed that the topic will actually also be on the ocean and human rights. So this is a really interesting development. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Actually, the Special Rapporteur has been so active that we forgot that it's only her first report to the Council. And the UN Ocean Conference that you mentioned is indeed taking place in June in Nice, but there are a few other negotiations or conferences taking place around the world where some of the topics discussed there in the report will be also are also important. For sure. And you mentioned also the resolution, so I take this opportunity for the member states who have joined us online or who are here in the room. If we have more information on the dates of the informals, we will be happy to also add them to the page so that everybody knows, and we try to avoid also using those spaces to plan our environmental related activities. And as you have heard, the week of 12th of March, so from 12th to 17th of March, is going to be very busy with the human rights and environmental related activities. So now I am turning to my right to the person leading the human rights and environmental team at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Benjamin Schachter, who will provide us some updates on what the recent space on human rights and environment has been active, what are the recent developments, and a few of his insights on the upcoming session of the Human Rights Council. Ben, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and apologies for keeping you all waiting and running late this morning. It's always a pleasure to be here at these briefings, and I want to thank Geneva Environment Network for organizing them. There, as you've heard from Victoria already, and you'll hear from my other colleagues soon, are a number of special rapporteurs reporting on their work related to the environment at this upcoming session of the Council. There's also a report from the panel discussion that took place in the June-July session of last year on climate change and livelihoods and loss and damage that will go to this session of the Council, and many other opportunities and spaces, I think, to talk about human rights and the environment. And we are seeing a continuing growth in this area. I think primarily what I'll speak to, and I'll try to be quick, is what's happened between HRC 57 and now, because after the last session of the Council, we had 3 Rio Convention cups, so desertification, climate change, and biodiversity, and we also had what was hoped to be, but not, the last negotiations of the Plastics Treaty. So OHCHR actively engaged in all those spaces. A number of the special procedures mechanisms of the Human Rights Council did as well. I'd say in particular at CBD, at the Convention on Biological Diversity COP16 in Cali, we had the largest and most substantial presence of UN human rights in a biodiversity negotiations by far. And so the SR environment and many other special procedures mechanisms were there. And our Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights participated, along with many people from our Colombia office, from the region, myself, and another colleague from headquarters. And there was, I think, quite substantial progress there in terms of a number of decisions that built on the convening Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and its commitment to a human rights-based approach that built on Target 22 of the framework and protection of environmental human rights defenders. And all of that was aided by developments at the council, right? So at HRC 57, we had the first resolution on human rights and biodiversity, and we were able to bring that resolution into the discussion, and I think it provided a really critical opportunity to support the advocacy, and that's a big part of what we've done over the course of the end of last year was really try to bring the different work that's been mandated by the council and the different Human Rights Council resolutions into the space of these environmental negotiations. So for the UNFCCC Cup, we also had the Secretary General's report on loss and damage, and the focus there was on finance. I think, we didn't unfortunately get the ambition that we were looking for, or as much and as strong of the human rights language that we wanted. But there is and remains a continued acknowledgement of the fact that human rights are critical for climate action and that we need a human rights-based approach to climate action. So I'd say, in terms of all of those different developments, right, the plastics negotiations will continue. CBD COP16 actually continues because there were a couple of items that weren't finalized, and that happens at the end of February, the same time as the first week of the council, and we'll continue to be there. But what I wanted to give you is just sort of a flavor of how those things connect, right? And that the work happening here at the council, at least, if we can help it, will have an impact in other spaces as well. And we are continuing in that engagement in the year ahead. There will be more plastics negotiations. There will be COP30, where the ambition on finance has to be stepped up, right? There was a commitment to the Baku to Belen roadmap to 1.3 trillion, and it's really critical that the upcoming COP actually articulate how we get to that 1.3 trillion, because 300 billion, which was agreed at COP29, is not sufficient. And it was also the case that, unfortunately, human rights language related to finance, the environmental and social safeguards, ensuring that people have access to finance, ensuring that there's a human rights-based approach to the mobilization of resources, was not adequately reflected in the outcome of COP29. So I think a big part of what we'll be doing and working on looking forward in the climate space is really how do we improve upon that COP29 outcome, and work with partners to to advocate for the 1.3 trillion in a way that respects, protects, and fulfills people's rights. And you'll hear from my colleagues further about some of the upcoming events at the council. One thing I'll flag is that we do intend to have OHCHR UNEP briefing, as we've done fairly regularly in the past, about our partnership and the work we're doing together under the Memorandum of Understanding between OHCHR and UN Environment Program. And so we'll be in touch shortly about that, as we've just yesterday, I think, well, not yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday, confirmed the room, and look forward to having you all there and having another opportunity to provide some information about the different work that we're doing, both under the respective mandates we have from the Council and the overall mandate of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and the work that we're doing to advance the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. So thank you.
The date of the UNEP.
The briefing,
Maybe Richard has it, and we'll.
Yeah, let's.
He has time to look for the date.
I'll check.
Before I give you
check.
the floor.
Yeah.
So this is also, thank you very much, Benjamin, to you and to your team for the important work that you do to advance human rights and the environmental agenda. We just heard how much you have been involved in so many negotiations happening around the world. So really warm thanks for what you do. Our next speaker this morning is Isabel Orizaga Inzunza, who is an associate human rights officer also with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. And Isabel is supporting the mandate of the international expert on the effects of foreign debt. So we will hear from Isabel what the mandate she's supporting is preparing at this session. You have the floor, Isabel.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I hope you can hear me well. Yes. So thank you, Diana, and thank you to my colleagues for their interventions. I'm very happy to be here joining them. And also, I want to thank you, all of you, for being here. As Diane said, I support the mandate of the independent expert. And I have to breathe because it's a long title. I support the mandate of the independent expert on the effects of foreign debt and other related international financial obligations of states for the full enjoyment of human rights, particularly economic, social, and cultural rights. The mandate on foreign debt, as we can refer to it, is part of the special procedures mechanism of the Human Rights Council and is one of the 46 thematic mandates of this mechanism. The independent expert, as other mandate holders, can also conduct country visits, can send communications to states and to other actors to action on individual human rights violations. The expert can also contribute to the development of international human rights standards and can engage in advocacy activities. The current independent expert, Mrs. Atilla Waris, was initially appointed in 2021. And the purpose of her mandate is to examine the effects of foreign debt and the social impact of measures arising from foreign debt, particularly in developing countries. The mandate of the expert acknowledges that foreign debt, and particularly unsustainable debt, is an obstacle to develop sustainability, to eradicate poverty, and for the full realization of economic, social, and cultural rights. During her recent activities, Mrs. Atilla Waris has conducted country visits to Angola, Liechtenstein, and the Bahamas, where she has focused on different subjects such as sovereign debt, climate vulnerability and its relation to sovereign debt, illicit financial flows, international cooperation, among others. The expert has also engaged in a dialogue with international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, this through the special procedures mechanism of special procedures. During her mandate, the independent expert has prepared diverse reports where she has advocated for the reform of the global fiscal architecture. She has also advocated for fiscal legitimacy and climate finance. Her last report, which is the reason why I am here, is entitled Understanding the Landscape of Climate Finance, Debt, Tax, Illicit Financial Flows, and Human Rights. With this report, Mrs. Atilla Waris aims to take stock of all ongoing global conversations on climate finance from a human rights lens. She departs from the disparities of power and finance across the globe, elaborating on the intersections between debt, tax, illicit financial flows, climate change, and human rights. The expert reflects on different solutions and avenues to implement innovative financing, including debt for climate swaps, governance bonds, taxation, and the redirection of illicit financial flows. The expert puts forward some recommendations in this report to states to scale up on climate finance by the reform of the global financial systems, strengthening taxation, tackling illicit financial flows, and the most important, Mrs. Atilla Waris emphasizes the importance of incorporating. Yes. She emphasizes the importance of incorporating and emphasizing human rights frameworks into all discussions, negotiations, and designing of climate policies. This report is going to be presented during the 58th session of the Human Rights Council. The interactive dialogue of the independent expert is scheduled to be between 10 and 11 March, but we know that the program can suffer some delays and changes. And she's also planning a side event on this thematic report. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to participate in the interactive dialogue and also in the side event. And also to thank all states and civil society and other actors who contributed to her thematic report through their submissions. Thank you.
What?
The side event is not, we don't have a date yet, but I hope to give you more details.
We understood that the week of 10th of March is going to be particularly busy.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks.
I just wanted to add that the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders has also issued a report that refers to environmental human rights defenders. We don't have here in the room somebody who is supporting her mandate, but colleagues, we will come back on this later on. And before we move to our tour de table, so for colleagues to announce what they are preparing or if they have questions, to raise the questions to our experts, I will hand over the floor to our colleague Richard Nkube, who is an environmental rights specialist joining us from the United Nations Environment Programme in Nairobi, where he focuses on human rights issues. And he will then speak about UNEP engagement at this upcoming session of the Human Rights Council. We already heard from Victoria and from Ben that UNEP will be around, and there are a few activities that are being organized jointly with others here. So Richard, you have the floor.
Many thanks, Diana. As indicated, my name is Richard Ngobe. I work with the United Nations Environment Programme. We are always excited to join these information sharing sessions because they allow us the opportunity to share our work, but also to learn what others are doing. I think as UNEP, we have mainly two activities that we are planning. The first one is that we are going to have a side event with the Special Rapporteur on the right to a clean, health, and sustainable environment on core human rights principles for private conservation organizations as well as private funders. So the information will be shared on due course, but that's one of the activities that we are planning, and you have the information on GEN website in due course. The second activity, as indicated by Ben, we're going to have a briefing on efforts under the OSHR and UNEP Memorandum of Understanding to advance the right to a healthy environment. This will be held on the 13th of March between 15 to 3:15 Geneva time. And you also have the information again on GEN website in due course. I think with the briefing, we'll also share recent developments on human rights and the environment. I also wanted to emphasize that we're also going to deliver statements on some of the reports during the upcoming HRC session. Many thanks.
Many thanks, Richard, for the updates. So it's now time to start our tour de table, and we will start here with the people in the room. Raise your hand if you want to take the floor. Also online, we have kept that option. So we will promote you to the stage online, but if you prefer to share something in the chat or in the Q&A, please go ahead. You have on our webpage, as I mentioned, already a series of events that are listed that colleagues have been sharing with us. So check the page. Some of the events, we are still missing details, but they are coming as many of the NGOs, for example, got yesterday the approval for their side events. So we are starting getting the information. And as I was mentioning earlier, if states have already information on the dates for the informal consultations on resolutions, or colleagues here around the table, don't hesitate to share them. I'm looking at the table, but as people are still shy, I wanted to mention something. So ahead of, during each session of the Council, the Geneva Environment Network, in partnership with Earth Justice and a series of other institutions, organize talks with the thematic talks with the special rapporteurs that report to the relative session of the Council. So at the March session, we will be engaging on what we call the Geneva Rights and Environment Talks that we launched last year. So maybe I will turn with Yves here in the room, and I will give him the floor to announce what he has been up to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Diana, and thank you to Gen for organizing this on a regular basis. These meetings, which are really very important in order to get organized, because as you see, when we will have the presence of Astrid Puentes, the Special Rapporteur on the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, it's going to be a very, very packed week. And knowing that at the same time, in parallel, we'll go on a number of negotiations on the resolution of the Council. So probably all of us will need to be at the same time in 2 or 3 rooms. So that's going to be fun, as usual. So just to say, we added a few moments in this difficulty, but that's what we're doing now with all of those different special rapporteurs who are working on environmental issues. Because as we can see in her report on oceans, that covers a number of different aspects. And usually you don't have the time in just one event or even during the interactive dialogue to review all what is presented. And it's worth really in the Human Rights Council with the concerned civil society organizations and experts and states to go sometimes more in depth in these issues to take the full advantage of these moments and of the reports. So this time on 2 days, we will have as it was just presented by Diana, and this is co-organized by Gen, Earth Justice, and a few other organizations like the Geneva Human Rights, Biodiversity and Land group, which is called the GERBIL. And so we will have on Thursday in the morning, we will have 2 talks at 9:30 and 10:30 on human rights in marine protected areas, and on the threats of deep sea mining. So all of the events will happen in Building H, which is just behind Building E in the Palais des Nations. So you just have to cross to the other building. It's really just very close to that. And they will be, thanks to Jen, streamed and recorded. So you can catch up afterwards if ever you were unable to attend it live. And then on Monday 17th in the afternoon, we will have three talks, and this is just before the Special Rapporteur leaves Geneva. So it's last moment in order to have these discussions with her. At 2, we will have a talk on human rights at sea, because there's a number of issues of human rights protection in the way the oceans are used, not only about the ecosystem, which is of course the main focus of the report, but we have unfortunately huge issues of human trafficking, appalling labor conditions on states, misuse of the flags, and so on. So there's a big issue of human rights at sea, which will be discussed on Monday 17 at 2 with her. We will have another discussion at 3, which is a bit related but slightly different, about ocean defenders and community at risk. There's a whole paragraph on ocean defenders in her report. Of course, ocean defenders are a bit one category of the environmental human rights defenders, as it's defined in the resolution 4011 adopted by consensus by the Human Rights Council on environmental defenders. But it'll be interesting because you have specific communities, you have also specific type of repression, unfortunately. So, and then we see a number of communities who are sometimes some of the most vulnerable, like coastal communities, small fisheries. And so we will be able to talk about this with her Monday at 3, and then at 4, we will end this discussion, and we hope to have also online the Special Rapporteur on Toxics and Human Rights, Marcos Orellana, on Will the Ocean Remain Blue? How Marine Pollution Violates Fundamental Rights. We'll be looking at here the report on oceans and the reports of the Special Rapporteur on his visit to IMO, and also what he has published, which directly relates to the issue of pollution in the ocean. So these are the talks, and once again, I really thank all of those who can announce as early as possible their dates and so on. We do have a bit of flexibility on our side because we're managing the room and so on. But and I know this is less the case for the side events. But unfortunately, in previous council sessions, we do have conflicting moments on the same issue, and that's always a disaster because then the room is half empty. And it's not good. So really have to coordinate among ourselves to make sure that we can, have the most with the Special Rapporteur and all the people attending the Human Rights Council sessions. Thank you very much.
Maybe Yves, as Francesca from Ciel is sick today, you want to say a few words on the event that Ciel is preparing that week?
Yes, thank you. If Francesca is not online, then I can try to say something about an event I'm not organizing at all. So at least there are 2 events, and also because I don't know if Jan is with us.
No, but you can also.
Okay, so then I will mention okay, so I'll mention the three of the events, which are side events. The difference with the talks and the side events is that the side events are events which have been requested by an NGO, an accredited NGO, and they are officially on the program of the day of the activities of the Human Rights Council. Talks are, in a way, private meetings with the Special Rapporteur on a specific issue. So we're in 2 different frameworks. In terms of the... Oh, great. Then I'll let the...
And then I move to...
So I just will pre-announce that there's a very important event on Thursday 13 organized by FIEN on the small-scale fisheries, and I'll let FIEN present that. Otherwise, there will be also on the 12th a meeting on investor-states dispute settlement mechanisms. Its relation directly with the ocean is slightly, is only partial, but it definitely is an issue that was already presented by Astrid's predecessor, Investor-state dispute settlement mechanisms are the way, or basically the arbitration, which is given when a company is basically attacking a state for having changed the agreement they had, including when this is a legal decision by a court or a parliament which is trying to protect the environment. We have a number of countries, both from the north and from the south, who are under attack, heavy under attack, with huge fines, with millions. And so this is basically now, and we see it in a number of countries, preventing environmental protection measures or human rights protection measures, or when both are linked. And this is becoming a major issue in order for states, just for themselves, to do their policy, or for parliaments to fulfill their role. So this is an issue that needs to be better discussed, and a number of organizations where Ciel is playing a leading role are trying to see how we can overcome this. There is a need a change of policy, but there also a need a change in the law. And basically, there is a very important element, which is just implementing international human rights law and the obligation which goes to states. So that's a very, very important issue. And of course, some ocean protection measures right now are being restrained because states don't want to take, for example, marine protected areas. They would like to do it, but they know that if ever they do it, then it's going to cost a huge amount. Some of the fines, we can call it like that, sometimes are equal to the amount of several years of GDP. So, I mean, this is just crazy. So that's going to be a very, very important discussion to have. And then on our side, we will have also a meeting on the 14th. We still need to coordinate part of it with other actors because we know that some states also might want to have a discussion. France and Costa Rica, who will be chairing in June in Nice in France, the 3rd UN conference on ocean, have already started in Geneva, the Geneva Blue Talks. There might be one on oceans and human rights. So we'll still have to see with them how we coordinate our event on the 14th. But we want to underline our event, how with this report on oceans, it's the first time that we have this type of discussion on a specific ecosystem. There was already a report by the Special Rapporteur, David Boyd, on ecosystem that was very general on the issue of ecosystems. This time we're looking at one specific biome, which is oceans. But unfortunately, all of the biomes right now are sending very worrying signals. And so there is a specific issue here, and we hope to talk about this on the side event that will happen on the Friday 14th. And I cannot give you the exact timing because we still need to check this with the Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Before I give the floor to FIAN International, I just wanted to mention that the talk that you had mentioned earlier on deep sea mining is also part of a series of events that we are launching next week on minerals and resources. There are a lot of activities in international Geneva and beyond on these topics at the international level. So these talks would unpack a lot of discussions happening in that space. And also we at each session of the Human Rights Council this year, we'll certainly have talks and side events as part of this of this series. So I see that Sibyl is online. Sorry, Sibyl, to not haven't given you the floor earlier. So you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, Diana. Thank you. Thank you all for organizing this info sharing event. As already mentioned, there will be a FIAN side event on Thursday, the 13th at 2 p.m. At the council, and we already heard that the Special Rapporteur on Environment will join the event. We will also have the Special Rapporteur on the right to food, because of course there is a interlink with the importance of a healthy ocean and the right to food. And we will have some voices from affected communities, from fisher peoples. We will have a fisherwoman from Guatemala who will talk about the pollution due to shrimp farming, export-oriented shrimp farming, and also we will have a colleague from FIAN Honduras who are looking at a case of possible gas exploitation in the Atlantic coast in the region of Mosquitia in Honduras that would have horrendous impacts on the whole marine and coastal ecosystem in that region. And also, I think we will be able to make a link to what we heard about the debt, the Special Rapporteur on the impacts of foreign debt and the debt crisis, because the actual report of the Special Rapporteur on the right to food will also look at finances, the debt crises, and what the financial and how the financial institution impede that government's ability to fulfill the right to food and other economic, cultural, social rights. So I think we will be able to link these topics together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sibylle. So we continue our tour de table. If you want to take the floor, raise your hand here in the room. Yes, we have Suzanne from the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. You have the floor.
Thanks, Diana, and thanks to all the speakers today. That's been really interesting to hear the updates, particularly in regard to the report on oceans and human rights. And we'll certainly look at attending the side events and participating in the talks where we can. I just wanted to highlight that we have the BRS COPs coming up, 28th of April till the 9th of May here in Geneva. We know that the Special Rapporteur on Toxics will be present and will address the plenary, so that's great. There's also an opportunity to organise any side events in the margins of the discussions, just to give you a heads up that if you're interested in doing as such, the deadline is, I believe, next Friday. So you're all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. And indeed, there are already a few stakeholders that have approached us because they are planning, including your office, Ben, to have side events on human rights related issues at your COPs. And we will be organizing also the toxic-free talks that generally take place in September. We'll also have sessions in the sidelines of the COPs. I don't know if Yves, you want to add something at this stage. But that we will brief you also in due time on that. I'm trying to see in the room, is there anybody else who wants to take the floor? Otherwise, while you decide if you want to take the floor or not online and in the room, I want to give the floor to Arve Parafina from the Geneva Environment Network team, where he focuses on human rights among many other issues, to provide us an update of maybe on what's on the website already on the page, and on topics that have not been yet touched. So Arve, you have the floor.
Thank you, Diana, for giving me the floor, and thank you for those who have already shared their information and their activities in the upcoming council session. And these have already been placed on our website. So if you have other information, kindly let us know. So on our page, I just want to give you a rundown of like how the page looks like. If you're already there, kindly do visit it. And the page is divided into the different themes that will tackle environment and human rights. Here you have the main environmental theme for the session, which is on the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. And under each theme, you will also find there the reports to be presented by the Special Rapporteur or independent experts, including relevant country visits. You will also find there buttons that lead to thematic pages on the GEN website that are relevant to the theme. Here you go. And following that, you have the other events which will be constantly updated, which will include side and parallel events that will be placed in this section. So for other organizations who will be organizing events outside the Palais des Nations, you can also kindly send us the information and we will be putting this on our website. So relevant deadlines for the community will also be placed here, such as the registration for NGOs to be on the list of speakers, and which is coming up very fast. Next would be the relevant reports that will be listed in this section. As you can see, there are other reports by special rapporteurs that will be tackling environmental issues. Sibylle has already mentioned the report of the special rapporteur on the right to food, Michael Fakhri, who will be reporting on the right to food, finance, and national action plans. This report will provide a way to develop national right to food action plans within existing budgets that can transform food systems and progressively realize the right to food. Especially in the light of global debt crisis, countries are often faced with the choice between feeding people or servicing debt. So this is a way for the special rapporteur to, number one, characterize the unsustainability and inequality of contemporary food systems and how they interplay with public finance. He characterizes one of which as climate change and the resulting financial burden for the countries most affected by it. And as Diana's mentioned as well, there is a report by the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders, Mary Lolor, who will be reporting on out-of-sight human rights defenders working in isolated, remote, and rural contexts. She will be analyzing the situation of human rights defenders in this context with a particular focus on existing gaps in their protection, as well as the specific risks and challenges they face. In her report, she recognizes the struggles and challenges that isolated human rights defenders face, including environmental human rights defenders and indigenous human rights defenders. She highlights attacks linked to locations and provides emblematic examples where environmental defenders are targeted, criminalized, and attacked for what they do. She also highlights a recommendation to develop protection mechanisms for environmental human rights defenders, taking into account intersectional dimensions of violations against women and girl defenders, indigenous peoples, and rural and marginalized communities. Ben has already mentioned as well the panel discussion report from HRC 56 on livelihoods and climate change. However, there is also another one, which the open-ended intergovernmental working group on transnational corporations and other business enterprises with respect to human rights will be presenting the report from their last session. Moving on, the resolutions and decisions that will be made in this Human Rights Council session will be placed on our website, and there will be also a section on call for submissions. Particularly, there are interesting environment-related calls for submissions right now, including one on reporters, journalism, and environmental issues. There's also one for the upcoming reports of the other special rapporteurs in the sessions that are to come this year. And finally, for those who will be recording their events, you will find here the videos and highlights for the upcoming session. So if you will be streaming your events, you can send us the link and we'll be highlighting it here. And as always, you can share your information through our webpage for this particular event, and we will be placing this on the website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arve. You see that there's a lot of work behind that page, and we do that also to facilitate particularly the work of the small missions that struggle and follow all what is ongoing in international Geneva, but also we have small NGOs, small other groups. So we hope that the work that we do is useful for you. I don't see any other hand up. No, I have one here. So please, Eve, you have the floor. One thing that Arve didn't mention is also that in the list of events, we will also place there the informals that will take place on the resolutions. Eve, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just two additional points to what has been said before. As the confirmation from the Secretariat was sent yesterday evening, we're getting now a bit the confirmation from different organizations. So the event on the investor state dispute settlement mechanism organized by CEL is confirmed to be on the Wednesday 12 at 2 p.m. FIAN's event on Thursday 13 is confirmed also at 2 p.m. So we're going to have to see how we deal with, because here we have a conflict, as we were saying. And then on Friday 14, our event is confirmed at 1 p.m. And perhaps a last point I forgot to say before, because you mentioned it, Diana, within the Geneva Rights and Environment talks, there will also be discussions, but that's basically going to be with the NGOs on the Special Rapporteur's next report, which will be on environmental impact assessment, and that will take place outside of the Palais des Nations, and that will be on Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Yves. That was indeed mentioned by Victoria. I see that Ben wants to take the floor. So Ben, you have the floor.
Thanks. Just to say, we will have a look at the schedule and the possibility that we can perhaps have that briefing at a different time. Now that we're aware of the conflict, and these discussions are very useful for bringing together the information in that way. Our primary constraint, I'd say, is we try to organize these around the presence of colleagues from UNEP, and so Su Young will be in Geneva for about a week, and we'll look. I'll discuss with her. We'll look at if we can find a room and in a different time that works with both of our schedules. But certainly we don't want to or intend to to have a conflict, and we'll see what we can do there.
And sorry, just for those who are not familiar with the process here, these timing are the timing we request, and then they're confirmed by the Secretariat. So, and they have been changed, actually. Some other requests were slightly different. This is what is coming out of the confirmation that was sent yesterday by the Secretariat of the Human Rights Council.
Thank you, Yves. I'm looking again at the hands here in the room, online, and I don't see any hands. So you have understood that, as usual, the page is very important. So we invite you to keep visiting that page to see what's up to. We have also our weekly newsletter that covers all what's happening in the environment in International Geneva, or at least tries to, because the agendas are very busy for everybody. So we would like to thank all those who have joined us in person or online today. We encourage those who came here in person to stay, so to have informal chats. So big thanks to our panel members, to all those who have been helping preparing this event, the ones behind the scenes that we rarely see. We will be active with a few other things. As I mentioned, next week we are launching the series on minerals and resources. Later, at the beginning of March, we will be celebrating World Wildlife Day at Palais des Nations, and a few top events in preparation of the Conference of the Parties to the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions are coming up, not only in April, as you see on this slide, but we have a few more coming up in March also that are not yet announced. And in preparation of the Minamata Convention and Mercury Conference of the Parties, there are also a few events coming up, as you can see on this slide. So we look forward to welcome you again here at the Palais or elsewhere in International Geneva for some of these events, including at the talks that we are preparing with Earth Justice and other colleagues, and at the side events of the Special Rapporteurs that we will be co-sponsoring. Thank you very much for being with us today. Yeah, question? No, don't worry. Yes. 2 last-minute questions before we close.
Yeah, that's important, but just Ms. Aberg, you mentioned that you have a report on oceans and human rights. I just wanted to ask where I could find it to show it, to share it with my colleagues as well.
So it's on the page that we have mentioned.
Okay.
So we will
Also, thanks
yeah,
to,
it's
great.
on the page, yeah.
Okay.
So it's easier. Actually, our page makes it easy for you to find some of these reports.
Okay.
So it's true that those who are online have been receiving the links regularly, but who is in the room? You are in the room, but we will share with you the link. Yeah.
Also, okay, I will look for it then. And also, I just wanted to ask for newsletter frequency. At what frequency you publish them?
So the Geneva Environment Network has a weekly newsletter, goes out every Monday. So there are 46 editions per year. But our colleagues of the Human Rights Office of the High Commission for Human Rights also have a thematic newsletter on human rights and the environment that goes out weekly, monthly. Sorry,
Monthly-ish.
Monthly. And so I know that the Special Rapporteur on the right to a healthy environment has also sometimes issued newsletters, but
yeah, it's been I mean, with the current, like the previous mandate holder was quarterly. For now, we don't have a full practice yet, but we share some news.
Okay, great.
But for who is Geneva based, the Geneva Environment Network goes out every week. It's larger than just human rights and the environment. It's all what's happening in the environment in Geneva, or at least we try. And we are also in contact with colleagues at IOM who regularly provide us with inputs. But if you are not yet receiving the newsletter, if you are interested to get the newsletter or of us sharing information throughout the newsletter, just write to us. We are always happy to receive you. Okay, great. Thank you very much. With that, we are closing this session, and once more, thank you to all. And for those who are here, please stay, we will chat. Thank you, bye-bye, everybody.